an old-school action platformer is unmatched in its appeal. Many people will always remember the Castlevania series and the Shinobi games, and you can still see the influences from those games in more recent games like Dead Cells. Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider, a game in this genre, is evidence that the Vengeful Guardian series is one that Joy Masher values highly. The studio's sequel to run-and-gun shooter Blazing Chrome is called Vengeful Guardian. Moonrider. In this game, the player takes on the role of the Moonrider, a cybernetic soldier developed by a totalitarian state to put down uprisings. However, Moonrider develops a life of its own and uses its own abilities against those who made it in order to defeat other super soldiers. If the plot of this story seems a little familiar, a cybernetic soldier traveling the globe and battling evil robot masters, if you will, then Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider's structure shouldn't come as a surprise. Like the best Mega Man games, the player can choose from 5 levels and play them in any order while taking out the rival super soldier at the end of each level to unlock their special weapon. In the meantime, similar to the Mega Man X games, the player can find hidden upgrades in various stages, such as the double jump or the always useful special weapon power regeneration. Despite this, Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider borrows ideas from a much wider range of video games than just the Mega Man series, serving as a sort of greatest hits of the genre's golden age. With a cyberpunk aesthetic and an attack style that is most reminiscent of the 16-bit action games from the 1990s, Moonrider, it is most comparable to those games. By virtue of both its visual aesthetic and its combat, it resembles the cult video game Hagain. The final conflicts the most, perhaps a little too closely. For those who grew up in the SNES or Sega Genesis era, Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider's visuals will feel like a home away from home. It has a ton of chunky sprites, especially when it comes to its incredibly large and detailed sub-bosses, although there is occasionally a level of graphic violence that would have likely made Nintendo pale had it tried to release on the Super Nintendo during the time period of its influences. There are also hints of biomechanical and body horror in some of the stages, as was frequently the case in the 1990s. Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider offers an unexpected amount of variety in terms of gameplay. Despite the fact that traditional action platforming predominates throughout the game, the title shakes things up by including shorter segments with unique gameplay or by putting the player's abilities to various tests. Examples include a flying section, a racing combat area reminiscent of Mode 7, and a memorable level where the player is being pursued by a boss in the distance. Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider emulates but doesn't copy the 90s action platformer's challenging nature, which is one of the key memories players may have of those games. Vengeful Guardian, while Moonrider isn't easy, it's not nearly as difficult as some of its peers from the 1990s. There are some difficult sections, and you have to memorize boss patterns. This title comes across as challenging but fair overall because the player is given some sympathy through features like losing health when falling into a pit rather than a life loss. Because of this, Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider does feel a little bit too brief. There are 8 stages in all, and even though the game's finale might keep you playing for the longest time, it's still likely that you'll finish it in a few hours. Fortunately, there is some replayability to be found in improving scores or finishing stages faster, and it's fair to say that its structure is pretty ideal for speed running. Overall, Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider is a ton of fun. Those who enjoy retro platforming games will experience a strong sense of nostalgia thanks to the game's resemblance to those classics, which has been slightly improved for playability. Although the game may not have much longevity, what is present is very enjoyable. Release dates for Vengeful Guardian, Moonrider for PC, PS4, PS5, and Nintendo Switch are set for January 12, 2023. Our score is 4 out of 5. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and support my channel lesser than 3.